Hello and welcome back. My name is Brandon, and we are going to continue our journey in making a character for Iron in the Blood. Last time we just made a little bit of notes about a 16-year-old girl whose family was murdered and she was left for dead, but unbeknownst to her attackers, a little bit of their blood got into her eyes and turned her into a vampire. And now we're going to continue this, but we're going to start fleshing out what it means to be a vampire in this particular instance of the game. If you see over here, I went ahead and named her. Now, it was a joke on a solo Discord server about how a character should be named True Solo, and so I kind of spun that off, and so I've named her Gertrude Soloman. And then I think by the time it becomes the modern night, she'll have shortened it to True and Solo. I think it'll be funny. But anyways, that might change. Everything changes. I also went ahead and made a character sheet for the game and put it in here and kind of filled it out. And also the back of the character sheet, which keeps track of what vampires are like in the world and the timeline. So born in 1790, out to the exact date, born and raised in New York. I went ahead and said that her father was not just a watchman in 1790, but he was a Revolutionary War veteran, and that she had 5 brothers and sisters. And I just did that when I was filling it out. It's not it could change. Everything can change. So there you go. Trudy Gertrude Soloman. So far. So the next step is to try to figure out what her first nights were like. What vampires are like. So the game itself doesn't have any preconceptions other than what I read at the beginning of the last recording last night. So we have to go through and figure that all out, or pick that all out. I'm going to go ahead and roll on pretty much every chart, but as always, there's certain things that I don't want to play that are in these charts because I think other people might find them interesting or easy to play or want a challenge. So I may skip them. I don't know. So the first one is, what do vampires feed on? And is there any transformation in their body that has to take place for it to happen? So I'll pull up this chart real quick, hit my percentages. 10. Blood. They do not undergo any physical changes when they feed and have normal human teeth. Alright. That makes sense. Vamps feed on blood and have normal human teeth. I can live with that. I'm down with the hunger. Maybe I'll get myself an Ankh knife necklace. So, what does it feel like to be fed on by a vampire? 23. It's painful, more so than the injury would suggest. Okay, so it's painful. More. I mean, it has to be really painful because I have flat human teeth and I'm biting through your flesh. So I don't think that vampires in this world actually bite people. I think they use tools. So, and then how long does the transformation take? 67. The next night. I think maybe she did die. And then the whole next day, she was treated like a corpse, and she probably wakes up the next night in whatever function an 1806 morgue would have, and surrounded by her dead family. Completely loses her mind maybe, and made a mess of it. You know, if it's night, it's evening, maybe nobody's there. Maybe she freaks out and flees into the night. Maybe she cries and smashes things and tries to get her family to wake up. Maybe at the end of this like fit, she remembers the faces of her killers, swears revenge. Yeah, I like that. So I'm going to say that the body dies and reanimates the next night. And I'm going to keep that story as kind of her creation story, you know, like during the day her family is found, probably by a neighbor, and their bodies are taken and mourned, and then she freaks out. She wakes up and just freaks out. I mean, I can't imagine the trauma that would be. And then when she flees into the dark, people think maybe that her body was snatched, that somebody broke in and stole this 16-year-old girl's body. That's pretty harsh, but, you know, vampire stories are pretty harsh. So 7 are corruptions. So corruptions are the weaknesses of vampires, right? As you play your vampire and it gets, you know, you do more inhuman things, there's a chance you're going to gain more and more corruptions. When you make corruptions, there's not a list of them. There are key terms and key rule components. And what you do is you roll them and you combine them together, and then you create the corruption based on what that inspires in you. The only corruption that all vampires have is sunlight. They start with it as an allergy and a weakness. So what that means is that if they're allergic to it, they suffer +1 harm from this item every time they're out in it. If it comes out in the narrative without a move, so like somebody's not using the sunlight against you, you just happen to go out in the sunlight, then you immediately have to endure harm. And weakness means that if you face death while suffering harm from that corruption, you die permanently. That's it. It's over. It kills you. So, but however, most weaknesses or most corruptions only have 1 rules component attached, not 2. So at the beginning of the game, you have 1 corruption. You can take up to 2 more corruptions. Each additional corruption you take gives you 1 additional gift in the next section. Let's see what they are. Let's roll for corruptions. A narrative. 37. Inhuman Feature. You acquire a distinctly inhuman look, or something happens around you that is decidedly unnatural. Do you look like a Nosferatu, Count Orlok, or perhaps perishable spoil in your presence? And let's see what the rules component is. Make sure what that would do. 86. It's responsive. So, Inhuman Feature, if I could spell, Inhuman Feature, responsive. Responsive triggers a move when it's revealed to someone for the first time. So, test a bond, enter the fray, face danger, pay the price. So, it has to be something that when I reveal it, it causes that. That's nice that lined up. I'm a big fan of shadow play and darkness, but she is not a shadowy character. She is very much a smart character. I like the thought of things perishing, rotting around me, but I think I want shadows to lean towards me. So like when I'm in a room and the candlelight is reflecting, the shadows that are cast actually bend towards me as if like the wind is blowing towards her, not me. As if the wind is blowing the shadows my direction. Like I'm a black hole for shadows. Yeah, I like that. I might as well roll again. I might as well get more gifts, right? Gifts are the vampire powers. See what I get? 12. Connections. Beauty, counting, addiction, selective feeding, invitation, something about you. Something about one of these compel you. Okay. 34. Allergic. Alright, so there's something that compels me, and if I don't do it, I suffer harm. That's what that means. So, I physically suffer harm if something comes up and I ignore it. So like, if I really wanted to be like in love with beauty, you know, like, I always think of Louis in the Vampire Lestat books about how he's just obsessed with how beautiful the world is, and it just hurts him like that. Or if you're playing like Vampire the Masquerade, like the Toreador, or if you're playing, if you're reading like a lot of traditional vampire stories where like they throw something on the ground, the vampire has to stop and count it. That's that. It can also be a type of person. Like if you see that type of person, you have to try to feed from them or deal with them or interact with them, or you physically take harm. You know, I kind of like the beauty idea. Beauty. Allergic. Takes +1 harm if ignoring beauty. So I think it's anything the character assumes is beautiful. Yeah, like beautiful people, beautiful art. I think it might actually hurt her eventually with like sunsets, that type of thing. I'm gonna roll one more time. Why not? It's like free gifts. 57, liquid. A liquid. And 9, weakness. Okay, so if I die while facing this corruption, I die permanently. So yeah, like if I get killed while being held underwater, that would work. It could be even something more archaic, like I must be killed while consuming dead blood, or weapons must be dipped in dead blood. Dead blood doesn't do damage to me, but if I'm killed with something wrapped in or I'm smeared with, then I die. I kind of like this like idea of dead blood. So we're gonna do this. Dead blood, weakness. I mean, that could be anything. It could be a ritual. Maybe they knock me out and then they coat me in the dead blood of somebody. I think it has to be dead human blood though. It can't be vampire blood, or it can't be, you know. There we go. She's a little bit interesting now, isn't she? She's becoming a little bit more vampiric. I like it. I like her. I'm not gonna lie. She is becoming one of my faves because I like those combinations. There's a couple that are gonna be hard to play though. But luckily the rule set makes you come up with things to like pay the price. Maybe if I pay the price, I can, instead of taking harm, I introduce beauty and give me a chance to not take harm, that type of thing. So the first thing I need to do when it comes to gifts is decide if any gifts are universal to all vampires. The default is no. Vampires do not innately have any abilities that come naturally to them. Now, all vampires in the game can do whatever feels vampiric in the game without a gift. They can put their mind, if they can put their mind to it, they can do it. You can limit this based on what you feel vampires are, or you can just run with it. If you're playing with a group, it's a conversation you need to have. But when you do that, you automatically have to you're automatically gambling with your control of yourself. Gifts, on the other hand, are instinctual powers that feel so much like part of you that they don't make you lose control when you use them, unless you use them in a way that's bigger than what you know them. So gifts have ranks, and that rank represents how powerful you can use the gift before you start losing control. If you are not benefiting from a role, you're not gaining something, you can always narrate a vampire power, and you don't suffer or lose control because you're not gaining a benefit from it. No universal gifts. And the same goes with corruptions, right? You see there's no fire on there. I think it's all different. I don't know yet. We'll figure it out. If like for some reason in the vampire society hierarchy we come in families or something, then maybe I'll decide that each, a family has its own or whatnot. But I kind of like the idea of vampires being almost unique snowflakes, unique bloody snowflakes. So I start with 2 gifts at +1, and since I took those 2 extra corruptions, so I took the 2 extra corruptions, I actually start with 4 gifts. So I can have 2 gifts at +2 or 4 gifts at +1, or I have 4 +1s, but 2 of them have to be at +1, so the other 2 are kind of floating. And again, there is a narrative component to it, and then the ranking of it is the bonus I get. So let's roll. 44. Heightened senses. +1. We'll just add that as a +1 right now. 32. Empath. That means I actually can see or experience the emotions of those around me. I kind of want 1 more, and then I'll decide if I want 1 at +2. 9. Animal control. I hate animal powers for vampires, but I'll live with it. I'm just gonna go with +2 heightened senses. I'm not overly thrilled with these gifts. I think I can play them well, and I think they'll help me, but they just seem pretty standard. Not a big deal. New vampires are not the most awesome yet, right? Vampire Society. Good old Vampire Society. In this, I just try to flesh out the society and what it looks like, because every world's different, but also I get a new role, a new novice role, and that role represents my place within Vampire Society, or her place within Vampire Society. So I'm gonna roll some dice here. 5. Alright, vampires are solitary rulers of their territories. They answer to no one but themselves within that territory. Okay, so they have, within their own domains, they have no one to answer to. They are just awesome. I don't know who changed me, but I'm going to roll this anyway. If you were changed by a solitary vampire, 17. 1 vampire and myself in this territory. Okay, so that changes my earlier story, right? It wasn't a group of vampires that broke in, it was 1 vampire. And it's the only other one in this territory. So, my maker. I am going to put that I'm myself. I'm independent and beholden to no one, because I kind of want to kill my maker. It's kind of what I want her to do. I think it's going to be her first mission. Alright, Vampire Society, or the doctrine of the solitary vampire, is best described as... The society is divided into groups of vampires, descended from same maker, who makes their own rules of territories. Do they obey a central agreed upon? Alright, so she might not know this yet, but it looks like that the society's fractured, so it looks like it's a hierarchy, almost like a feudal structure, but every vampire in the hierarchy pretty much makes their own rules. Survival of the fittest. Yeah. What's this other role here? Yeah, it's just fractured. It's a fractured society with no rules. Which is great, because that means that if I want to have a game where I'm just going to kill my maker, I don't have to worry about repercussions right now, and there's less like anybody else is there. But it looks like that is only regional. Region. Well, so beyond New York City, it may be different. We don't know yet. So I'm going to take the role of Huntress. That is her role within the society. She is hunting down her maker. I've decided that's my story. I told you I like revenge stories, right? So we're going to make it happen. All right, new bonds. So I get one additional bond, or I can increase the rating in a bond I already have. This is kind of risky because if you lose a mortal bond, they drop to 1 immediately. So if I say raise this to her friend, right? If I raise it to 3, then this person dies, or I move through time and this person dies, this drops to 1. I lose 2 bonds. I don't know if I want to do that. I could also, it usually represents like in a bond, it's like usually to your maker or something like that. I guess I could, because I'm hunting him, but I don't really think that's a good use of bonds in this setup of the game. So I think either her uncle or her friend knows that she's, or maybe they both do. Maybe I'm going to make this friend her cousin. And these two are in it together. And her and her cousin are really close. Yep, that's it. Yep. That's probably who she turned to that night. After she fled into the dark, after freaking out about her family, she turned to the only people she knew were there in town that she could turn to, and that was her uncle. And her cousin, who was really tight, and they took her in and believed her that she was attacked and that she survived, and she didn't know why the people thought she was dead, and so they embraced her. And when they realized the next day that she was not feeling well in the sun, they didn't do anything about it. They didn't turn her out. They still don't know what's really happening, because she doesn't know what's really happening, but they support her and they love her, and that's why her bonds with them are so strong. And they just want to see her get through this. I think if she ever displays how monstrous she is to them, then they might go back on that. But that's a test your bond moment in the game. So we're gonna just live with that. Vows, both personal and public. As I stated in the last session, vows are very important to vampires. Like, the blood responds to them. And so when you give a vow, it binds you, whether it's to another vampire or to a human or to yourself. Your vow is binding in almost all ways. So most vampire societies have a ritualized version they go through. That's how important it is. But Gertrude does not know what that is. She's in this domain with this one vampire. And I'm thinking the domain isn't all of New York City. The domain is like a small region of it. And I'm going to research 1806 New York City and figure out if there's another place. But I'm saying it's just a small section of the city. 1806, the city is not overly big because they're small. So I think it's going to be a quick goal to get rid of her maker. There's a core vow, which is something that will probably never happen, but it's the reason they get up every morning and they just don't go walk into the sun. My epic vow is, I don't know. And then I get 2 more vows. At least one of them should bind your vampire to the vampire society if possible. At least one of them should be immediately actionable. Something they are doing when the game starts out. Okay, so kill my maker. First vow. I'm going to go with dangerous. I think my maker is actually weak. I mean, he broke into the house. Like, something happened to him or her. that caused him to do something really reckless. I think maybe he's still weak. I mean, I'll just play this like a couple weeks after she's turned. She's looking for him. Dangerous. Kill my maker. Find out if there are more like me, and how I fit in. Formidable. And that's because vampires are secretive, so I think it's going to take a while for her to figure that out. And then I don't know if that's a good vow or not. I mean, am I damned? She wants to find out if she really is damned. I guess that's an end goal, right? Once I get all the way through it. But what are the steps that are actionable in it, right? She's also angry. She's angry at her parents. She's angry at society. She's angry at the fact that she was turned into a monster. No, it's find herself. She's lost, right? So she's going to find herself. And when she does, then that'll be the end of the game. Because she'll find herself. And she'll know exactly who she is. And how damned or how not damned she is. Alright, step 12 is I mark up resources. You know, spirit is your mental state. Health is your physical condition. Control is your ability to resist the monster inside of you. To resist your hunger. You roll control every time you do something vampiric. And resources are an abstract representation of wealth. You roll them every time you end up buying something or using something. Or it also is kind of your reputation at the same time. So resources are very nebulous and they're used for whatever you want them to be. And momentum is your forward momentum and almost your current mood in the game. So I will go ahead and mark this on the character sheet after I get done recording this, so you guys don't have to watch me type everything twice. And then 13. Who is she? Who is she? I mean, I've already painted her as the child of a Revolutionary War veteran. So I believe she's probably poor, white. I gave her a name, Soloman. So maybe she's German, like a German descent, European descent. Maybe her dad was from Germany. She really had no prospects, and in a way, becoming a vampire has freed her, but she hasn't seen that yet because she's too busy wanting to get revenge for what happened to her family. And she's gonna go give it. I think she's gonna go get this revenge that she wants so bad. You played role-playing games before, and you know the struggle of actually describing your character. So what I'm going to do is stop this recording, and then I'm going to transpose her onto the character sheet. I'm going to name her cousin and her uncle. I'll probably name her family too, just so I know who they are in play. I'm not going to detail who her maker was. I mean, I know enough about him for the play, and I'll just find out through play, and then I'll go ahead and write a little description of her, and maybe some notes about why her uncle and cousin and her are so close, and why they accepted her for who she is. And then next time I log on, we are going to start getting revenge for the murder of Gertrude's family, and it will be bloody and violent and hopefully emotional, and we'll see. See you next time.